What's good, folk? It is your boy Brandon Leake here. Your wonderful host of our little podcast entitled Vulnerability. If you are new here and you have no idea who I am a spoken word poet, season 15 winner of America's Got Talent, believer and follower of Jesus, as well as a father, husband, son, whatever other monikers you want to give me. And we are on episode 7 of this wonderful podcast. And I'm very excited to get the chance to talk to you about our particular subject today. And this subject is friendships and how we can have healthy ones and how to recognize signs of unhealthy ones. And so if we're going to be vulnerable, which is what this podcast is about, we probably all do a fairly poor job at this whole friendship thing, right? Maybe just me. For myself, for a very long season of my life, I tried to utterly depend on my friends to be my source of identity, my entire need of community, and also in some ways tried to replace God with the people who I was actually kicking it around. And what I mean by that is, instead of actually diving into my word for myself, I would simply just talk to my friends and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing the things. I'm doing what I should be doing." And that wasn't real. Um and also oftentimes the people who I would surround myself with weren't necessarily the best charactered people. And there's beauty in being able to have a mentee who you can lead and guide and aid and being able to live a better life. But also there is a reality that you end up adopting a lot of the personality and traits of the people who you surround yourself with. If you don't believe, see how many successful people are consistently surrounded by unsuccessful people. And you will learn a very quick lesson about that. Also, see how many faithful people, and what I mean by faithful, people who are in long lasting marriages, who are committed to their partners, who are committed to their husbands, their wives, how many of them are constantly in community with people who don't stay faithful to their husbands and or wives, right? Those two don't normally mix together. I'll tell you now, accountability just don't work that way, which is a major part of friendship. But let's dive into it, right? One of the biggest aspects of friendship that I think we do pretty decently well is we encourage one another. I see this in a lot of ways. Now, I'm gonna talk to my black people real quick. We encourage people in a very odd way. Very odd way. We love to demean and destroy people as we uplift them. It's part of our lovely little culture called roasting. Where somebody will have a big celebratory moment, be like, "Oh, dog, man, yo, old ugly bahad, I can't believe you did that," right? Gotta throw some little subtle jab in there to try to then make it somewhat comical, as opposed to just genuinely giving the compliment. It's a very weird thing, but it's I'm not gonna completely knock it because I know I know I participate in it. But encouragement is so huge, especially in friendships, because the encouragement coming from peers and people who are going through very similar things to what you're going through and existing in becomes a sign and a recognition within our own minds and spirits that we are doing the things that we should be doing. Like 1 Thessalonians 5:11 states, "Encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." This encouragement becomes something that we can lean on and say, "Yo, when I am down, I have people who I can turn to, who I know will be crutches for me at a time that I am not strong enough to hold myself up," because that is what encouragement is. Or encouragement could also be, "Yo, in this time of joy, I have people who are going to continue to raise me up, not to try to make me cocky or make me prideful, but to instead state yo, man, we are just so ecstatic for you. We are proud of the commitment you've made and the honoring that you've done to it. And so that's like a really beautiful thing. Um, but also, friendship requires that we be very honest and that we hold each other accountable. And this is where I think oftentimes friendships begin to fall because we think that our friendships, and this also goes into like, dating relationships and marriages. We believe that our friends' happiness is of greater consequence than us ensuring that they are the best person that they actually can be. And I don't believe that that is the case. I believe that our friendships should be ones in which we can celebrate joy, love, have fun, be entertained by them. I don't believe they just solely service the purpose of our improvement. I believe they also serve a very good communal and joyful purpose. But to deny the nature that friendship has in our development as people would be to deny a very real part that we are communal beings. Because if you look at a verse like Colossians 3:13, it says, "Bear with each other and forgive one another, and if any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you." But the context to a verse like this is, if you are having a grievance, that means you now must address said grievance. You now must have the conversation about said grievance, even if the grievance isn't particularly pertaining to you. I come from a culture, and it's both like, I don't distinctly think culture immediately relates to race. I know that that's a major thing, but I come from like a home culture, from my neighborhood, from my living scenarios where mind your business is a very big aspect to it. If it don't affect you, don't comment on it. I think that that's a very toxic ideology to hold, because now accountability doesn't have a place at the table unless it personally impacts you, when that shouldn't be the case. We know things to be morally sound and wrong, and we know that sometimes our friends do foul things that don't negatively impact us, but that may be negatively, or for surely are negatively impacting others. And it's our job as their friends to call them out on it, to say, hey, yo, like, that's wrong. That has to change. I'm going to give people think this is going to be a dramatic example, but this happens every single day, so I don't feel it to be too dramatic. If a husband is beating his wife and I'm his friend, I am not going to stand by silently, knowing what's going on within the four walls of his home, despite the fact that it does not physically impact me, despite the fact that it's, in some people's eyes, frankly, none of my business. I'm going to call him out on it. And I'm going to say, dog, this grievance, this issue, we cannot maintain friendship if this is something that is going to continue, because I do not associate and call you a friend if you are going to exhibit this type of behavior. Dog, we have to change, because this call to change is a mandate of our godly relationship as well as our friendship. Even if you don't love God, I'm calling you out on that regardless, right? Like, it's needed. And then the acknowledgement of this falling is also another key and significant part of it, because now we're talking about accountability, but then we're talking about the grace that God then has for us for once the accountability is then held and then somebody acknowledges their faults. Now we can extend forgiveness to then tell this person, hey, yo, we are fallen. We have fallen short. Now it is our job to now enact and be a part of the active change to make sure that that is no longer present, which then features something like this. Ecclesiastes 4:9, two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. How do we maintain the good, constant labor of our souls and of our hands if we do not do it together? If we're talking about loving one another, we're talking about caring for one another, holding each other accountable within these types of friendships, then it is required that we have to have more than one party there. I mean, I hope that you're friends with yourself, but like that's also kind of a weird thing, right? Like we anyway, I believe friendships should should look like loving somebody enough to hold them accountable to the ways that they should change. I believe friendships should look like, hey yo man, like let's celebrate one another and encourage one another, uplift one another, knowing that in our down moments we have people by our side, in our high moments we have people by our side. At my worst and at my best, it does not matter. I am still affectionately cared for. Because that is a life-changing thing. Because so much of this world is so immensely circumstantial. And if your friendships remain completely circumstantial, and I don't mean circumstantial in the sense that you can just do anything and they'll still be by your side, because that's not real friendship. Because real friendships, as stated prior, require accountability, and accountability requires change for people to be able to maintain them, especially as people grow, develop, and all the things. But there's also a nature to friendship that holds a beautiful, resounding sound when it's like, yo, dog, on your worst day, I will love you as long as you are willing to grow. On your best day, I will love you no matter what. That is such an awesome thing to have. And I think many of us genuinely lack that. We lack the ability to have people who we can be transparent and honest with, because we think that forgiveness will be withheld from us if we actually share some stuff. People will begin to judge us if we talk about the things that we've done in our past, that if they were to honestly see who we were behind some of these facades that we hold up, that we wouldn't be viewed the same. And guess what? You might not be viewed the same. But our vulnerability is the greatest resource we have in these friendships, because our vulnerability will allow people to love us exactly where we're at. Give our friends an honest look to be able to say, hey, yo, like I see where you are and I want to love you in that space. Ecclesiastes 4:10 states, if either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. We are made to be communal beings, and our friendships require us to maintain the same balance that God maintains within friendships, both justice and grace, love and accountability. These are not opposite ends of the spectrum. They are two who play a wonderful and beautiful dance together. So yes, I dare say if you're looking for genuine friendship, you need people who you can have celebratory work with on your best days, and people who on your worst days will stand by your side and help you grow into the best version of yourself. I think that that's what genuine friendship looks like. But maybe that's just me. You all let me know in the comment section down below. What does friendship look like to you in its most beautiful sense? And shoot, if you can, tag your best friend. Would love to see who they are. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.